What is up? What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Mystar here to show you guys another freaking video. Today, I wanted to talk about Saturn and hate because I feel these two things are sort of tied. I was originally going to do this video about hate and haters, and how haters are actually your biggest supporters. Now, I feel like a lot of people are going to think that this is cliche, because everybody says, "Oh, yeah, haters are your biggest fans." But no, I'm gonna break down the spiritual reason on why haters are actually your biggest fans, and why they're actually some of the people who give you the most energy, the most boost when it comes to your spiritual path, depending on how you go about this. So I want to start with the haters. I'm gonna get into Saturn as well. So first of all, I want to say that hate is actually a very powerful energy, and it's something that you can utilize very, very well when it comes to boosting yourself or utilizing it for your path and your purpose and where you want to go in your life. So, the reason on why is because even though, yes, a person may be hating you and sending you negative energy. Now, a lot of spiritual people will say, oh, negative energy is, bad, and it's like a curse, and so on and so forth. But if you're really spiritual and you know the truth, you know that at the end of the day, no matter what curse or what energy someone sends towards you, it's up to you whether or not you actually accept that energy. So you have the power to just, no, fuck that, I don't want that. So at the end of the day, if you are thinking that the hater is actually getting one over you, or that they're somehow harming you or putting a curse on you in some way, shape, or form, then you're actually giving your power away. And a lot of people ain't gonna like this, I feel. A lot of people ain't gonna like this because a lot of people want to give a reason to why they're going through a lot of the shit that they're going through on their day to day life. And it's easy to just say, oh, yeah, it's because of this person or it's because of that person, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's up to you whether or not you accept and bring that energy on. And I'm about to explain why. So you may think that things are going bad for you when you are receiving hate in your life, right? But at the end of the day, if you watch my other videos, I've talked about esoteric currency before. Basically, your esoteric currency is your ability to pay attention to something. This is why they even talk about paying attention, is where this concept and this word actually comes from. And you can say it doesn't, pardon me, guys. You can say it doesn't come from this base. You can say it doesn't originate from this base. But at the end of the day, I have more correspondence to be able to say what is true and what is not, which is paying attention is called paying attention for a reason. You know what I mean? Even currency at the end, it has a C in it, right? Seeing is something to do with your eyes. And what do you do when you look at something? You're paying attention to it. So it doesn't matter which way you look at it, the correspondence and the facts are there. So whether or not you want to accept this, that's up to you. So when you use your esoteric currency, regardless of if you're using positive, negative, or even neutral energy, you're still paying attention to something. So you're giving that thing light, you're giving it energy, you're giving it attention, and you're feeding that. So this is why you experience certain things that you pay attention to, or like if you start thinking about something or you have a certain topic on your mind, you start to experience more of that topic in your reality because you've started paying for that experience. And the universe is always going to give you what you pay for. You know what I mean? Same if you go to the store, you're going to get what you paid for. You know what I mean? So these are how everything trickles down. But, anyways, moving on. A hater actually cares more about you than a supporter in some circumstances. Now, arguably, this could be true or false depending on the situation. You may have a really, really, really true supporter. They just support everything you do. They don't even care. Those are the kind of people that they don't even look at what you do as right or wrong. They don't even question what you do because at the end of the day, they have faith and belief that you are being able to carry out things in the way that they support you for. You know what I mean? So that arguably these people are more bigger supporters than your haters, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to rule out and say that your biggest supporters are less than your haters in terms of the amount of energy they give you. However, it does take a lot of energy and a lot of attention for someone to actually hate you. You know this from your life, you don't go around just hating anyone, right? It takes a lot for someone to actually collect and accumulate your hate. For you to hate someone or not like someone, it's going to take quite a bit for you to actually get to that point. You may dislike someone, you may have a distaste for them, but for you to actually develop hate, that takes quite a lot of energy. So that's how we know that haters are actually low key your biggest supporters. So if you are hating on someone right now, I'm gonna tell you right now, you are low key supporting them. So if you want to be a supporter, that's on you. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to give away my esoteric currency for free like that because that shit is whack. But anyways, I digress. So what's it called? Most people don't even hate someone, right? You don't even, if you don't like someone, you just move on with your life. So this just shows how much energy, how much time, how much effort someone actually has to put into hating you. And when they hate you, they go to large lengths just to see you fail and to see your downfall. If you've ever hated someone in the past, you already know this. You already know how far you can go in order to bring down someone that you hate, you know? So, really, at the end of the day, they're your biggest supporters. So, I will say as well, if you're constantly thinking about whether or not these people hate you, then you're actually jumping into that world with them because you've taken your mind, your thoughts, which is your attention, right? Your currency, and you brought it to the world that they're in, the world of them hating you, the world of them constantly thinking about you. So as soon as you jump into that world, the longer time you spend in that world, even if you're not hating on them, but you're still paying attention to the fact that they hate you, that's you creating like a gateway or a portal for them to be able to put their hate into you. And this is where hate can become harmful because you're allowing that portal to enter you. You're creating like a feminine space for that hate to be held. So the moment you stop thinking about that hater, the moment you stop feeling or caring about that hater, is the moment you take yourself out of that world. And now your thoughts and your feelings are focused on another concept, right? So whatever concept you're focusing on, that's where your energy is going. That's where your esoteric currency is going, right? But they're still sitting there hating on you. So when they're sitting there hating on you and you're focusing your esoteric currency on your direction, on your path, where do you think that hate energy is going to go? It's going to go towards your energy and what you want to do. So if you're focusing, let's say I'm focusing on doing a live right now, anybody that may hate me, all that energy, all that hate, all that negative energy, I'm just transmuting that and using it for my life. I'm just transmuting that and using it for my path where I want to go. So that's how I can utilize that for my benefit. But in doing so, I'm also slightly thinking about it. So that's where you take yourself out of that space, focus on what you want to focus on, and then all that energy will start transmuting naturally, you know? Because everything spiritual, everything spiritual and physical, we always do naturally. You don't like when it comes to tools and stuff that we use in reality, like tarot cards, crystals, um, even just like actions, like certain actions that you do, like these things, yeah, they'll give you a boost. Like let's say you have a certain ritual that you play out, these things will give you a boost, but at the end of the day, you're already doing that naturally. But whatever you do on top of that is like the cherry on top. So don't ever think that you don't have access to some kind of spiritual energy or spiritual power that somebody else have access to, because we're all spiritual, we're all powerful. It's just about knowing your power and not giving it away. And once you know your power, then you're able to utilize your power for a better circumstance, for a better outcome. But anyway, what's it called? I'm just looking at my notes. So by using your thought and feeling as a what? Yep. Yeah. So basically all that shit, all that energy that they'd be giving you, you're using it as a boost. That's like your fuel, you know? And you may think, oh no, it's negative, it's gonna blah blah blah, it's gonna affect me. But at the end of the day, just that thought, just that belief, just that concept, just that feeling, that is what's allowing it to affect you. So now I want to talk about Saturn now, because we've gotten over this hate energy, we've gotten over this hate concept, and I will tie it into the Saturn concept as well once you guys see. So when it's talking about Saturn, as you can see from the video and maybe the description, I did a little typo in the description, but I left it there because I think that it's very relevant. It's very accurate. Sometimes mistakes are actually better off. You know, like some people say, when you make mistakes, sometimes you can make the greatest discoveries. I don't think that's exactly how they say it, but you get the concept. So everyone in this world worships Saturn. Now, you may think, oh, no, I don't worship Saturn. I don't even know anything about astrology. I don't even know what the heck Saturn is, right? But once I break down what actually Saturn is, you'll start to see that even certain ways that you worship Saturn without actually realizing it. So, what is Saturn in astrology first? I want to break down what actually is Saturn. So, Saturn is related to cycles. It's also related to, well, we know that cycles is related to death as well, because, you know, death is part of the life cycle. So once you reach death, you know you've accumulated and completed a cycle. Okay. And also, as well, Saturn represents structures and business as well, these kind of energies. So it's all about like Earth-like qualities. So the actual star system that we live in with Earth and stuff like that, these are actually Saturn-like stars. So even Earth, you know, everything on Earth in some way relates to Saturn. The reason why is because Saturn is actually also related to Capricorn and Aquarius. The Capricorn talks about status, what you're known for, your career, and business, and all those kind of things. So how you're seen as well, which is related to your status. And now Aquarius represents like innovation, individuality, uniqueness, and also can in some way, this is when you're bringing Uranus into the picture, it can represent change, rebel, and opposition. But generally, because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, it has Saturn-like qualities and qualities of organization, qualities of structure. This is the way Aquarius is a very, very good at organizing and bringing a whole group of people together. Because even though it's not an earth element, which is more to do with structure, organization, and all those kind of things, because it's air, takes that structure and that organization, but it directs it into an area of communication and people, you know? So when it comes to directing it into an area of communication, people, that's where it becomes, you know, a little bit more people oriented. However, it still carries the characteristics and the qualities of being organized and having a structure and building up networks, which is really what Aquarius is about. It's about associations and networks, which is 11th house energy. And 10th house energy is to do with Capricorn because they rule over those signs. The house rules over the sign. If you didn't know that, now you know. It's not the sign ruling over the house. So when it comes to these qualities, right? Once I started to break that down, now you're starting to probably see how a lot of the qualities in our world are based around Saturn. So even though people don't know what Saturn is, a lot of the things that are relate to this world are related to Saturn, to the point where even Saturday is a day that people, everyone who works a 6 or 5 day week, or however many days of a week you work, majority of people, what do they look forward to? What is their favorite day of the week? What are they geeing up for to go onto the weekend for them to have a great time? They're geeing up for Saturday, right? And what do you think Saturday is named after? It's named after Saturn. So It goes deep to the point where everyone even wants the day to be upheld and held up to a certain point, right? But if you go even deeper into that, everyone's constantly obsessed or worked up into upholding a certain image, upholding a certain way of being seen, which is related to Saturn as well. So they want to be seen in a certain way. They want to uphold a certain status. And this is the things that majority of the time control the world. Like if you don't have any form of status, or if you're not seen in a positive light, a lot of the times you won't be able to get very far in this world. So this shows what energies are actually domineering over this world right now. So as well, most things that go on in this world, most things that people talk about, you wouldn't be able to talk about something with someone unless it has some kind of Saturn-like quality, right? So right now, the only way you can even understand what I'm saying is because the things that I'm saying have some kind of structure, have some kind of cycle or rotation to them, have some kind of um, organization and tiered like aspects to it. So in order for me to even create a sentence, I have to organize and correlate the words into certain spots. You know what I mean? Which is arguably related to all the earth elements, which is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. But when it comes to Capricorn, it's about like structure and organization, business, those kind of things. So even down to that, getting into business, most things in this world cannot be done without business in some way, shape, or form. So if you go out into the world and you do a whole bunch of shit, right? But you ain't involving yourself in some kind of business, or you're not standing on some form of business, a lot of people will look down on you. They think that you're doing something for no reason, right? So these are those very subtle, I wouldn't even say subtle, but these are the very subtle ways of how people are subconsciously actually worshipping Saturn without actually knowing it. So if you're unstructured and you're unearth-like in this world as well, a lot of the time you won't even be given the time of day. Like for example, let's say a lot of creative stuff is not very highly regarded when it comes to this world too. Most people, they talk about, of course people value that. I'm not going to say people don't value that. Always look at things from an equilibrium perspective, especially when you're watching my videos. So not saying that nobody values that, but at the end of the day, majority of people are not going to see or value where you're coming from unless they have some kind of structure or business or organization or status behind it, right? And even down to the small scale, if someone doesn't have a certain status, like may look at someone and they may have all these different things, like they're really artsy, they're really creative, they're really about all of this shit, right? But at the end of the day, they're not doing anything Saturn-like with it. If they're not trying to build a career or build a status or develop something or some way of being known for this, then you're most likely just going to be like, oh yeah, that's just a hobby. And you won't take it serious, right? This is another quality of Saturn as well. In your chart, if you look at where Saturn is, you can actually find what kind of things you're serious about, or what kind of things make you serious in a way. But that's another video. I don't want to go too deep into that. But Saturn is also related to that quality of being serious. So for me, as a wild example, actually I said that's another video, but here, let me just give the example anyway, since I already started. So for me, the things that make me serious is what I have, my gifts and talents. But also because it's in the first house, because it's in Taurus, that's why those things will make me serious, right? But because it's in the first house, it's talking about your personal life, your personal affairs, and so on and so forth. So something that I came across in terms of my personal life and my personal affairs would have developed into some form of seriousness. And then the planets that are conjunct with that will also play into part as well. I don't want to get too deep into that as well because I'm still learning about that myself. Y'all guys, y'all, you guys know as well, if you've been watching my videos, that I'm, still learning astrology. I'm not no expert when it comes to astrology. I know, but I'm still getting there, just as you are. So if you're in this channel as well, you already know that. So when it comes to these unstructured and unearth-like energies, a lot of people will see these in a negative aspect, like, oh, you're not trying to make something, you're not trying to build a business, you're not trying to organize some kind of network. You know what I mean? You're not trying to build and expand your networks when it comes to your creative endeavors. Oh, that must be just a hobby. That must be something that you're not taking serious. So when it comes to that, you can literally see how even down to the most subconscious, deep level, how people be worshipping Saturn even when they don't realize it, even when they don't even know. So it's crazy. It's really wild. And then also when it comes to, as well, taking it back to the hate concept. When it comes to the hate concept, this is something that other people, if a whole bunch of people hate you and you have a status, or you're well known amongst people that hate you, a lot of people will take this as a negative aspect. Arguably it can be, if a whole bunch of people hate you, you may need to look into the mirror and check yourself at the end of the day. But if just a few people hate you, a lot of people might take this a negative, or as though they're doing something wrong. Now, not everyone, I will say, but just that fact is showing how they uphold Saturn. They uphold a vision or a way of being seen, or a status that they want to hold, right? So, and when you're upholding something in your mind, that is the highest form of worship that you can get to. Everything in the physical reality, when it comes to physically worshipping, like prayer, all that kind of stuff, that's just another physical representation of what worship is. But when it comes to the mind, what kind of concepts you uphold and what kind of concepts you value, that is actually low-key what you be worshipping and what you be putting praise to in your mind, because it all starts in the mind at the end of the day. So if you're constantly upholding a certain status, a certain career, a way of being known, a certain network, a certain group of people, then this is you worshipping Saturn in some way, shape, or form. And as well, I want to go back to the equilibrium. Always remember, it's all about equilibrium. So it's not about completely cutting off Saturn and saying, oh no, because this world is full of a whole bunch of Saturn constructs, I'm just going to completely go against the grain and I'm going to go complete opposite Saturn. Sorry guys, I just laughed my ass off because Saturn is also related to that as well. It's just related to a form of opposition. This is why in the Bible they talk about Satan. They talk about Satan, how Satan goes and opposes against God, right? This is another form or way of looking at Saturn as well. So I will say, if you are the person, I don't know why that cracked me up. It's not even that funny. So I will say, if you are the type of person who had that thought to say, no, fuck Saturn, I'm not going to worship that. I'm going to go completely opposite. I'm going to go completely against the grain and go against everything that's Saturn-like. That in itself is still Saturn-like. So you see how the world is so cooked up. Like, even if you yourself, I'm not judging you at the end of the day. If you yourself had that thought, it just goes to show how deep that Saturn programming goes, because at the end of the day, who do you think built this world, right? The shadow government, the Illuminati, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the Freemasons, the people who are behind the government and puppeteering everything behind the scenes, right? They try to program everyone so deep to the point where they got people lost into biases, where even when you think that you're going against Saturn, you're still acting in the Saturn energy. So that's how crazy this shit is. But that's why it's always important to have equilibrium, because then you won't get lost into one of these forms and you'll be able to just jump into it whenever you need it. You can use Saturn, you can use Venus, you can use blah, 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 So, like, even when it comes to Venus and other planets, like, a lot of those things are not respected unless it has some kind of structure or status behind it, you know? Most people won't accept your love unless they know, you have a status or being known for having how do I say, having a uh I'm trying to find the word, guys. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay. So basically, let me just move on. It'll come back to me because I don't want to spend too much time on that shit. Anyways, yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. Sorry. So when it comes to, like, for example, even if you were to express and say that you are loving something, right? People won't take your love for something or your ability to love something serious unless they see some kind of status behind it, which is not to say, oh, like, status when it comes to having a job and shit like that. No, I'm talking about being known. So if someone knows you to be the type of person to say you love someone when you actually don't, or vice versa, like, this is just an example, they're not going to take your love, right? You know what I mean? So these are very, very crazy ass ways how the world of that we live in is literally has that Saturn quality regardless. Doesn't matter which way you try to switch it or look at it. And this is as well, this is backup of proof on how I always talk about in my videos. I always talk about how when you, what's it called? When you when you bend things in from the mental to the physical, right? How everything bends in from the mental to the physical. So the mind into the physical, and everything is teamwork makes the dream work. Okay, so everyone's working together as a collective, everyone on the planet, including animals, bugs, trees, everything, plants, all of it, doesn't matter, all working together to create our physical reality. So if it's alive, if it's breathing, if it has a pulse, if it's able to grow, then it has some form of part to play, and teamwork makes the dream work, which is how we even create this world. We literally created this world together as a collective. There's no example of anywhere in the world of something creating another living being from thin air. The only thing that happens is a whole bunch of people working together and creating and helping to create stuff together. So that's the only way to look at it. At the end of the day, life is life. And if you're going to ignore the things in life and look at things that are imaginary, that don't exist in life, then that's a form of a lostness in a way, because everything in life occurs and shows you what life is like. So when it comes to these qualities, you can see how we've actually brought this upon ourselves by upholding and looking and seeing these Saturn qualities as the highest shape and form that we can uphold, or as the the most valuable thing to uphold. We've created this world together into a Saturn-like world, into a world that you can't actually really look at anything in any way other than through that lens, or related to the Saturn-like energy in some way, shape, or form. So it's wild. It's really wild. Once you actually see it, it's going to change your perspective on a lot of different things. But it takes a wise spirit to actually know what I'm talking about. So when it comes to the other aspects of the world as well, like, everything that everyone does in some way, shape, or form in their reality is related to some way, shape, or form to the business world, to corporations, like other aspects like entertainment, religion, education, and politics. You can't even have a form of entertainment without some kind of status, some kind of structure, some kind of business. Most people won't even get into the entertainment industry without some form of work or cycle, which is, cycle can be like many different things. you rely on a cycle every week for you to constantly reap, which is Saturn qualities again, going back to that Saturn energy. You rely on that constant cycle every week for your income to come, right? And if your income doesn't come, then you already know, okay, something's not right, because at the end of the day, that's a cycle that you constantly expect to come forward. So that's another way of how Saturn is just literally in everything. And then even religion, arguably religion itself does not really involve any business or money. Some religions and some aspects, like, corrupt churches and so on and so forth, or corrupt, whatever corrupt religion it is, doesn't have to be church, but I just say church because, I grew up in a Christian family, so I know more about church rather than other like religions and stuff. So that's just relevant to my life. But even religion itself, you know, religion has some form of organization, some form of status, some form of some form of structure to it, So these are the same kind of concepts. Even the weeks, every week is a cycle. So that in itself is a Saturn-like quality. Everything, no matter what way you look at it, love, doesn't matter fucking where you look. Saturn is there, I'm telling you. So when you look at it like this, you realize how a lot of people don't even realize that they're upholding concepts. Like, it doesn't even have to do with Saturn, There's other concepts in the world that are constantly prevalent that keep coming up, but people just see them, oh, that's just life. That's just everyday life. But no, we created these things. We made these things to be. So it's all part of us as a collective to unmake these things if we want a different reality. If we want to change things, it's up to us to do that. It's up to us to change the world and make it less Saturn-like and more blah blah blah, whichever energy or quality we want to do. Which even that, like, it's not about diving too deep into one quality or too deep into another quality. It's about utilizing everything. This is why we have variety. This is why we have multiple different people, Like, this is why we have options and different things. Otherwise, everything in the world would just be the same. If everything in the world was just the same, then we would only need to focus on one thing. We would only need to focus on one area. But from life, when you go out into life, you experience many different things. You experience many different experiences. You experience many different people. So this is how you should go about life in general. Always go with the natural order. Don't figure. If life doesn't show you a bunch of people doing the same shit every day, which arguably it does because everyone's lost into Saturn qualities, but you know that everyone's different, right? You know that I'm not the same ethnicity as you. I'm not from the same country or landmass as you. I don't wake up at the same time as you. I don't do the same things as you. I'm interested in different things than you are. So this shows variety and diversity is natural. That's what's normal. So when you dive too deep into one concept, this goes back to that equilibrium energy. You dive too deep into one concept, that's unnatural. You're going too deep into the unnatural shit. You're just, no, that's whack. And that's why a lot of people suffer, because they try to dive into one thing and focus on one thing, when actually you should be open to the possibilities, all possibilities. And then when you open to the possibilities of things, you're able to see life in many different aspects. You're able to take knowledge from many different experiences. You're able to take wisdom from all different things rather than just looking at it from one side or the other, which is when you get lost into a bias. So this is why equilibrium is so important, because it's natural, it's normal, it's every day of life involves some form of equilibrium. And when you get lost and you think that things aren't, I put them on the table. And when you get lost and you think that things aren't in some way, shape, or form equilibrium, then that's when you kind of fall into like unnatural kind of energies, and you're kind of throwing yourself off your game a little bit. So always remember that everything is about variety, diversity, and different things. It's not about just looking at things from one side or the other, you know? So going on to education. Education involves some form of structure, organization, and status. If you don't have a certain education in this world, you're not going to be known for having a good status, are you? a lot of people uphold this and try to say that this is the most important thing, which goes on to my other topic too, as well. It's like I wanted to make another video on this. I might, but as well, most people in this world don't even realize education itself, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna diss it, and this is where you need to bring equilibrium into the picture. But education itself, yes, it can have values. Yes, it can be valuable and it can bring benefits to your life. This is about variety. That's where we go into variety and, seeing things for what they are in the natural order of things. But a lot of people are so lost into the fact that they think that the only way for you to accumulate some kind of knowledge or know how is by going through the education system. But I will argue against this. I'm not even arguing at the end of the day because I know I'm right, but I will say that as a point to go against what you're saying, as a little opposition to go against what you're saying or what you think is when you're thinking about education being the end all be all when it comes to knowing things. Who do you think made that educational system in the first place? And if they did, do you think that they went and learned that educational system by going to another course that someone else made? Or do you think that they learned it themselves and created a course for other people to go through? So when you look at it like that, you realize that actually a lot of the best knowledge that you can get, a lot of the best wisdom you can get is by being self-taught. A lot of people who make music know this already. A lot of people who are into art and stuff know this already. Like, this is not even something that you need to say because a lot of people who make music and art, they've already gone through and they've tried to be taught by someone else and so on and so forth. But a lot of the times, they have noticed that they've been able to learn things a lot quicker and pick up on things a lot quicker when they just teach themselves. So this just shows where the real wisdom and knowledge can actually lie. And I'm not dissing you if you go to university. There's still benefits and there's still a positive outcome that you can get out of that. But don't freaking disregard the knowledge and the wisdom that life will give you, because at the end of the day, the person who made your course was a student of life first, and then they became a teacher. And that's always how it is. You're always going to be a student of life first, and then you're going to start teaching. I wouldn't have gotten up here and started talking about this video if I didn't first learn from the world around me and life, And don't get me wrong, sometimes I've been guilty myself to go out and try and accumulate knowledge from someone else and think that that's the end all be all, But at the end of the day, when you go out into life, that's where you can gain the most wisdom and the most knowledge from things. So when it comes to politics as well, I think I'd covered education fully, but yeah, when it comes to politics as well, politics in itself is a big business in itself. Like, politicians be asking for freaking donations, all kind of shit, or they be asking for like all kind of shit when it comes to getting people to band together, organizing a whole group of network of people. Same with education. You have to gain a network or group of people together in order for them to actually go to your school to get educated into certain things, right? So when you realize that, how much the Saturn quality actually is involved in a lot of people's everyday life without actually realizing it. So that's freaking wild. It's really wild. It's crazy, honestly. Anyways, religion. Oh no, I was not talking about religion. Sorry, guys. So politics, yeah, politics. Like, even politicians, like a lot of politicians, you won't even vote for unless, in some way, shape, or form, you'd see them having a certain status. You won't even look at someone majority of the time unless they have some form of status or credibility behind them, regardless of if it's education, an entertainment status, or a political status, or even a religious status. Just them having a certain status would be the thing that would draw you to them rather than the other politician. You may know them, they may have a status or be known for being a kind person, so you're going to go more towards voting for that person that you think is kind, rather than the person that you think has a status or being known for being rude. Oh fuck. I'm very expressive with my hands to the point where a bitch poked me eye. But yeah, what's it called? As you can see, the world is riddled with Saturn love. So it's bloody wild. And no hate to those Saturn energies. Like at the end of the day, they can be beneficial. They can be very, very good for you if you utilize them in the right way. But don't get lost into that shit like how everybody else is. Because this world, the way the shadow government built it, they want you to get lost into Saturn. They want you to constantly work towards the end of the week. They want you to constantly be in that cycle every week, day in and day out. That's why they even created the 7-day week. If you didn't know that, now you know. And as well, even the week as well used to be a 10-day week when they originally made the weeks. Because there's actually 10 planets technically. Now, some people would argue that Pluto is not a planet, but scientists go in and out, in and out. At the end of the day, science is just a theory until proven. So really, science is just pseudo shit, but they have equipment and stuff to make it seem credible. But at the end of the day, if you're sitting at home and doing a science experiment, it always starts off as a theory or something pseudo until you prove it. And even then, once it's proven, there's still later on in the future, there's no guarantee that you won't find something else that proves something that disproves what you've already proven. So science is almost always based around theories, regardless. Doesn't matter which way you look at it. So even that, when it comes to Saturn, how they made the 7-day week, Saturn is the 7th planet. 7 is the number of that's related to Saturn. That's why 7 starts with S as well. But arguably, that's not really relevant because 6 also starts with S too. So that's not really a valid point, I would say, but it's still valid-ish. But yeah, 7 is also, Saturn is the 7th planet, I'm pretty sure, in astrology too. So the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Saturn. Oh, it's actually, wait, Sun, Moon. Oh, anyways. Oh, wait, yeah, I forgot the Earth. Sorry. Yeah, Saturn's the 7th planet. So when it comes to Saturn being the 7th planet and we having 7 days in a week, you can see how the shadow government has literally built and structured and organized everything to be focused around Saturn. They want you to constantly uphold these things. They want to constantly uphold Saturn because they worship Saturn. They uphold Saturn. They uphold those energies. They uphold the Earth-like qualities. They actually worship Baal, which is Taurus, the Taurus constellation. But Saturn is a big concept that they also uphold and they're constantly working towards because they want y'all to get lost into that Saturn energy, Saturnalia, Saturday, 7 days of the week. They want you to get lost into cycles, like hellistic energies. So, because at the end of the day, hell is just a cycle. You doing the same thing over and over and over every single day. That's why they say when you go to hell, you suffer for eternity, right? What is suffering for eternity? You doing the same thing day in and day out every single day. So when it comes to that concept itself, they want you to get lost into that hell energy, that hellistic state by constantly living week by week, every single week, for you to constantly live by that cycle that they put in place. And then you are constantly living to the next week, to the next week, to the next week, to the next week. I just live day by day. That's how I like to live. I don't like to focus on this week or that week or last week or then week or they week or them week. Whatever week it is, it doesn't matter. I don't give a shit. But at the end of the day, I just focus on the day. What day are we on? Hey, this day I'm going to focus on what I want to focus on. What am I doing today? That's how I like to focus on it. I don't like to focus on their little Saturn cycle week shit. But that's not a bad thing either. They can have their benefits too, and you can utilize them to your benefit, but that's a whole nother video. But what's it called? Is it though? I'm sorry. I'm just starting to think. Maybe I should start including that. I already said that in the other video. So, but yeah, even back to that whole politics and stuff like that. Yeah, like I wanted to talk about this as well because I was already onto the topic of politics. Is when it comes to politics as well, a lot of people get lost into that thinking that it even works. I'm here to tell you right now, if you even think that voting or shit like that actually works, that's low key a form of lostness. And I'm not here to shame anybody at the end of the day. I don't want to make people feel like I'm sitting here judging them, but I'm gonna say truth where truth is due, you know. I'm not gonna fucking sugarcoat shit and make it out all pretty for you to be able to be like, oh yeah, okay, that's in a nice little package for me to be able to hear. I'm a Taurus, but fuck, I'm not that nice. I try to bring my Aries rising in it every now and then. I try to bring that little Aries impulsivity, energy and that little Aries fire through as well. But because I'm an Aries rising as well, my Taurus qualities are going to be seen as extreme regardless. So I'm going to be seen as extremely nice, extremely friendly, extremely stable, extremely practical. You know what I mean? Extremely consistent, extremely stubborn. So anything that I do when it comes to Taurus energies is going to be seen in an extreme way regardless. And Gemini too. You know, Gemini is about communication, being mutable and adaptable to your own and others' ideas. So I'm going to have both of those qualities kind of more on the extreme side. So that's why I talk a lot. And that's also why you can see me, what's it called? Being very, how do I say, chill. Like a lot of people pick up on that. Oh, you're really, really chill. Like you're so chill. Like you're so chill. Like they always put the so in front of it because that's the Aries rising. When you've got an Aries rising or what's it called? Aries sun, Aries moon even, I'd say, like things are gonna be seen in an extreme matter, or it's gonna bring an extreme energy to your other qualities. So because it's in my first house, a lot of my planets are gonna be seen in an extreme way. That's just natural for me. I can't really tone it down a lot of the time. So but actually, no, I won't even say that because at the end of the day, I'm still learning astrology. There may be an aspect of my astrology that I haven't learned yet, and a way for me to tone down that energy. But I don't see a reason on why I should, because I feel that I should act in my natural energies and utilize my natural gifts and talents to the most. But regardless, back to that politics, because I don't want to go too deep into that and get too distracted on tangent with my Gemini Mercury. So when it comes to the politics thing, right? A lot of people think that politics is actually working for them, but if politics was really working, this world would be in a better position than it really is right now because a bunch of people would have voted for the right shit right now. And we can tell because if you go out into the world, majority of people are not going to disagree with you when it comes to what they want to see in their country or their law or their government, right? But somehow, when it comes to politics, all of a sudden, now everyone's divided. Everyone's got differing opinions. Like you know this yourself. If you even go up to your like, doesn't matter what background or what beliefs people have, the majority of the time, people just want to come to some kind of common agreement about something. Even if most people don't want to be in an argumentative state of being. Most people don't want to be oppositional to the other person next to them. So when it comes to politics and the way they try to paint the picture and say, oh, this whole group of people agrees with this politician and this whole group of people agrees with this politician. That's all just theatrics and that's just them trying to uphold and bring that status or something and uphold it so you can see it as a light, a Lucifer, which is what a light is. It's just a Lucifer. This is why they say in the Bible that Lucifer is the light or Lucifer is the brightest morning star, because it's you upholding some kind of light, some kind of vision, some kind of way of being seen, which arguably is still related to the Saturn energy status. So, yeah, what's it called? When it comes to you upholding that light, the shadow government upholding that light and that way of seeing things. They want y'all to see things as everyone's divided, everyone's in opposition to each other. But really, when you go out into the world, you see reality for what it is. Most people do not want to argue. People want to come to a common agreement. Even if people are debating about something, most people just want to have a friendly debate, a friendly discussion, rather than to argue about this or that or this or that. You know what I mean? So really, when you get down to the nitty gritty, the only time where there's division or separation amongst these things is when you see it on the news, when you see it with the politicians, when you see it being seen, and so on and so forth. And even now, as I'm making this video, I want to bring up this point too. Most people who kick this shit and talk about this shit on YouTube, most people, like, people will see, you'll look at their channels, and a lot of people won't even come onto their channels. A lot of people won't even look at their channels because they'll be just saying, the algorithm and stuff like that, the way that the YouTube algorithm and stuff is set up is this kind of shit that people talk about when it comes to real truth, real knowledge, like how I was just saying about the world being completely different to how they portray it on the news. People don't even act the way that they portray shit on the news or in politics and so on and so forth. So just the fact that even people are looking at politics and seeing it in that concept and like thinking that the world is actually like that, that's another way that people getting lost into the light, lost into the Lucifer, lost into that concept. So it's just freaking lostness altogether for you to even believe that politics is legit, because look in reality, look at what people are actually doing. You don't see people arguing and going out and freaking fighting each other and punching each other just over who voted for who. You know what I mean? So that's just another form of lostness that they try to get people lost into, because they want everyone to pay attention to their concepts, their ideas, and uphold their status, their structures, their Saturn qualities, you know? So as well, like, they're not gonna put out a bunch of people like me on YouTube, because why would they put something that goes against their structures and their systems? I'm spitting real facts about the world that we live in, that everyone, majority of people, I would say, would come to my channel and be like, oh, actually, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Even if you don't agree, you may not agree with every single point that I make, right? But you can still see where I come from, and you can see where the facts are and what basis I actually have to even be talking about this. So that just shows how it's weird that even someone like, I'm not saying me, for example, 'cause let's say I'm just starting out, but I know a lot of YouTubers that be spitting the same kind of shit that I do, and even better shit, like even more powerful, truthful shit. But yet they don't even barely get views. And that's on purpose. That's for a reason, because the shadow government doesn't want that kind of shit to get out, because at the end of the day, that's true. That's gonna that's just going to break down their structures. It's going to bring an end to their cycle, their Saturn energies that they try to uphold. You know what I mean? So it's all about Saturn for them. It's all about those kind of energies. It's all about structure, business, organization, all of that shit. They try to keep it upheld in their reality. So once you realize this, you're like, oh, what the fuck? This shit is a lot easier than I thought, because then you realize that a lot of the shit that they try to put up into your face and they try to uphold and keep as a structure is really just weak shit, really. It's just shit to keep you into a state of separation, which again, that's more Saturn energy. Saturn, when you end a cycle, which is Saturn, when you and you complete a cycle, you're separating from that one cycle and going into the next cycle, right? So that's another form of Saturn worship that they try to get everyone lost into. They're constantly getting your, it's crazy, guys. It's fucking crazy how much they actually want you guys to worship Saturn. It's fucking wild, I swear. But yeah, it's literally prevalent in everything. And yeah, there's a good reason on why they do that, because they want to uphold a certain way of being and a way of living for everyone to constantly be lost into. But yeah, That's another way of, Saturn. They won't let you have a status. They won't let you be known. They won't let you be on the public eye and have some kind of career about, doing shit like this, talking about real shit in the world, real news, real politics, real business, real education, you know, because at the end of the day, they want their form of education, their form of business, their form of politics, to be upheld and to be put in the forefront of everything. That's freaking crazy, man. But yeah, they if you don't do the things that they want you to do in this world, like do education, religion, politics, business, if you don't do these in the way that they want you to do it, in Saturn-like ways, in Earth-like qualities, they're gonna just completely diss you. If it's not practical, it doesn't make sense with their world, their structure, which is practicality and making sense out of things as Earth qualities. If it doesn't make sense and be practical with their structures and their world that they create, then you're not going to get very far in their world. And that's not to say you won't get successful. Don't ever get discouraged by their freaking fake ass Lucifers and their fake ass lights they try to project onto you to make you feel like you're not successful. Because at the end of the day, success comes in many ways, shapes, and forms. Just because you're not successful in a way of Saturn, in a way of business, in a way of organization, in a way of being known for something, doesn't mean you're not successful. The moment you even put yourself on a successful path and you see yourself, oh, I want to be successful in this area. I want to be successful with this concept. I want to be successful with this thing that I want to do. You're already there because you put yourself into that mental space where you're starting to think about what does it take for me to even develop success. You're already there in the mental realm. And as we know, everything bends in from the mental to the physical. So the fact that you're paying attention to that, you're already building that reality for yourself. It's like the observer effect that scientists be talking about. I always put scientists in in air quotes. No, this is not me discrediting scientists. I don't want to disrespect anybody who's a scientist, because at the end of the day, there's always a good and bad in everything. So I don't want to discredit people that are scientists. When I say scientists with air quotes, this is just me saying that, like, this is just me emphasizing the point of you shouldn't just uphold scientists as the end all be all, because at the end of the day, we're all learning from life. We're all learning from things that we see in everyday life. Just because you don't have some kind of expensive equipment or because you don't have a laboratory, that doesn't mean you're not a scientist. If you freaking did an experiment, right? You go outside right now and you do an experiment. What do you think you're doing? That's a form of science, right? So if you constantly practice and you work towards doing your experiments, regardless of if you have a status or education or you're known, see, Saturn qualities, guys, regardless of if you have status or education or you're known for being a scientist, right? These are still scientist energies. So you're already being a scientist in self. So regardless of how you look at it or which way you look at it, you're a scientist if you do those kind of things, right? Same with me. Like, I may not see myself or think of myself like a teacher in some way, shape, or form because, I may not have like a teaching job or I may not have gone to a course where I've taught people or learned how to teach people, right? But I've seen time in and time out, I've seen day in and day out me teaching, me learning, me teaching others. Even when I make mistakes, I've seen how my mistakes have literally been a lesson to others around me, regardless of if it was negative or bad. It doesn't matter which way I look at my life. I've always been teaching people in one way, shape, or form. So for me to even say that I'm not a teacher, that's me still upholding that Saturn concept. That's me still worshipping Saturn in some way, shape, or form. So even as I'm making this video, I'm breaking down and separating from those concepts myself and being able to say, yeah, actually, no, I am a teacher. I'm a teacher. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. I'm a teacher because at the end of the day, if I'm constantly being taught and teaching others, regardless of if I intend to do so or not, what does that make me? I'm constantly practicing teaching, right? So I'm a teacher. It doesn't matter if I don't have a classroom. Arguably, though, this is my classroom. So anyways, let's move on. Oh, sorry, guys. But yeah, anyways, back to that worship concept as well. Just being aware of what you're actually worshiping, what kind of concepts, what kind of ideas you're constantly upholding in your reality. That'll help you to realize, okay, what am I actually giving credence to or constantly thinking about? And those are going to be the kind of things that you're upholding. And if you're upholding it to the point where, that's the only thing you see, that's the end all be all, then that's in a way, shape, or a form, you worshiping that thing. So, regardless of the Saturn concept, regardless of what I just broke down, if you look at that, you're able to see what kind of things you're actually worshiping, what kind of concepts you're actually worshiping. And it's really not about worshiping anything, because at the end of the day, you should be able to utilize these things to your benefit as you please. If you worship something, then you just kind of get lost into that thing, and then you're, what's it called? You're not actually, how do I say it? You're not actually looking at things from every aspect, and that's going back to that natural order of things that I was talking about before. Because life teaches you to look at everything, right? Or always see things from a diverse perspective. So if you're not looking at things from a diverse perspective, then you're gonna be kind of limited in a way, and you're not looking at it from an equilibrium aspect. So yeah, moving on. When it comes to worshiping, you may look at this and think, oh no, that's not worshiping. But at the end of the day, that's the highest form of worship, because if you're constantly giving your esoteric currency, your thoughts and your feelings to one concept, one idea, then you're paying for that experience. You're paying that energy. You're feeding that energy. You're feeding that source. So that is worship. That is what it is. If you worship something, you want to give it energy, right? You want to pay attention to it, right? You want to give it energy and time and power. So, let's not get lost into concepts and words and semantics and shit like that, which I don't know if that's even the right concept or aspect to use semantics in. But yeah, when it comes to those kind of things, then you can see, okay, what am I worshiping? What do I need to stop worshiping? Or what do I maybe need to worship a little bit less? Or, what do I need to uphold or bring up in value a little bit more, you know? And this is where you can achieve balance in all areas and aspects rather than just looking at things from one Saturn like lens. And again, this reality that we live in is still controlled by Saturn like energies and Earth like qualities. So, don't go too deep into that energy where you're just completely disregarding Earth like qualities, because now you're just going to be completely, you won't be speaking English. Oh, you won't even be speaking any language. You won't even be able to make legible words. You know what I mean? But for you to even have like sounds like okay, those are Saturn or Earth-like qualities. They have some kind of structure or practicality. They make sense to you. So it's to say, the reason why I'm bringing this up is these things are still important. These things are still valuable in reality. And at the end of the day, if this world is constantly run by these energies, you're gonna need to use them. But it's about knowing how to use them, and knowing when you're diving too deep into it, where you're just upholding that thing and seeing it as the end all be all, you know? So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what I wanted to talk about with this Saturn like concept and these haters. So yeah, at the end of the day, look at what you're giving credence to, love. What are you worshipping? What are you upholding in your life? What are you constantly seeing as the end all be all for you? You know, and at the end of the day, nothing is the end all be all, and I mean that in the most literal sense. No thing is the end all be all. But yeah, anyways, to let's go to. I think I'm getting tired, guys. Laters, guys. Have a great night. Hope you guys got some knowledge from this video. Peace.